What happened, just walking or something? You heard something?
I don't know if it was, it's either that or ECL.
Were you just walking or something? And
I was out, I think it's
you felt something? You felt something? Oh, boy.
and it's like I caught myself.
Ever since that day, it hasn't felt right.
So,
Okay. Right.
it is so small.
Oh, man.
So,
Mayor,
Yes,
is Mr. Markey going to be here tonight?
I don't believe so, but Robert will be about
Okay.
just a few minutes later.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Something they can clean up and just go home.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hoping.
there's maybe I'll know more after a week and a half or so.
Okay, what'd you do?
I don't know if I told Ramsey or if I just told her.
That's how I get rolling. Are we up and running, Jerry? We good? Good? Okay. Are you ready? I call the Norton City Council Committee work session for Tuesday, February 19th, 2019 to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silent reflection. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Please be seated. Would the clerk call the roll, please?
Mr. Gaynor?
Here.
Mr. McClone?
Here.
Mr. Carrot?
Here.
Mr. Towsley?
Here.
Ms. Whipke?
Ms. Whipke is excused.
Mr. Pilat?
Here.
Mr. Kernan?
Here. Moving on to public comment. Mr. Casey?
Joe Casey, 3141 Monterey Drive. I'd like to reserve mine until later on in the evening.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on to Committee of the Whole. Before we get started on Committee of the Whole, I did just want to make a quick statement. I know that there were some flyers or some information that went out on Easton Road today. I want to assure the citizens that that did not come from the City of Norton. There was some false information on that. There is no plan at this point to assess anyone for any sidewalks. So that is incorrect information. I did get a call from a resident earlier, and I explained that to them. We are doing some engineering to try and receive some grants to do some sidewalks. We've talked about doing that if we would get some grants, but there is absolutely no plan on council or in the administration, as far as I know, to assess anyone for any sidewalks. So I just wanted to make that clear. Does anyone else have any comments about that? I don't know how many of us heard about it, but like I said, I got a call earlier today from a resident.
I also had 2 calls today and was visited at church in the aisle over the same issue, so I had 3. And there was all the same thing, misinformation that was intentionally put out in mailboxes. Conveniently, my mailbox was skipped.
And again, I received phone calls as well. I'd like to reiterate to the public, do exactly that
call your council people, call the administration if you receive something like that. 99, if not 100% of the time, when you get something that's signed anonymous, it's not even worth the paper it's written on. So if you want the facts behind what it is, make sure that you call the city or something. Don't get all upset because that's all they're after.
All right. Having said that, then we will move on to item A, application for renewal of agricultural districts. We have two of those, and those go to Mr. Gaynor.
Yes, I just want to offer a resolution 26 and 27 under consent agenda to be moved to next week's council meeting for public hearings.
All right. So I have a motion to put those on next week's council.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Would the clerk call the roll, please?
Mr. Gaynor?
Yes.
Mr. Carratt?
Yes.
Mr. McClone?
Yes.
All right, moving on to letter B, OPWC grant applications is under finance. That's ordinance 28-2019. Ms. Whipke is not here, so I will take care of that. This is just an ordinance that is allowing the administration to apply for those grants. Mayor or Mr. Messner, do you have anything to add to that, or any council members? Okay. So again, this is just merely to apply for the grants. No money is being spent here at this point, and anything that comes of this would come back to us again for council to take a look at. So I will move to place resolution 28-2019 on council's next agenda for first reading.
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
Charlotte had just a comment that she indicated that the assessments levied against the properties, if it goes through, would be on the construction aspect only. Is that true?
Not sure, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Maybe we can get that clarified before the reading and
Before
stuff for next week.
Yeah,
Sure.
we can do that.
Yeah. And again, this is actually for some water line projects in Barber Road's storm sewer and reconstruction project, and Worcester Road, and all of those that we've
Correct.
been talking about.
Yeah.
So, any further discussion? Would the clerk call the roll, please, on that?
Mr. Kernan?
Yes.
Mr. Pelot?
Yes.
Moving on to letter C, this is authorization to purchase a 2019 Durango in an amount not to exceed $28,000. This, again, would fall to finance, so I'll go ahead and take care of this. This is a truck for zoning, is that correct? And that's what this one is for, Mr. Pelot?
Weren't we
Well, that is
going
correct.
to go with the Ford because it's lower,
A little, yes, there is a little bit
like
of
$1,000 savings?
Yes, yes.
So I know that the Ford would be purchased through Montrose Ford.
Correct.
The Durango, if we bought it, would be purchased through Fred Martin.
Martin, correct,
And you said that the difference is right around $1,000 or less than $1,000.
correct.
You know, and I understand saving money, and I understand trying to save as much as possible. You know, Fred Martin is a local business. They give us a lot. They give us, DARE vehicles. They give us car washes. They give us oil changes, I think, at times for different things. I would not have a problem with going through Fred Martin because it's a local business. I'm just throwing it out there, see what council thinks.
And at one point in time, what is the percentage that we give? 2%?
2%.
So what is that? That's only, it's like 270 or 4? No. Is that right?
That's about right.
So it'd be a little less than that because by being a local company, we give consideration for that and allow a 2% reduction in whatever their bid price is. I mean, doesn't allow us to pay 2% less, but that's what we do for bids.
Both of them are very good vehicles, and I think either one would work very well for the city of Norton. I think it's just at this point, we gave you both options or both options of either one, so, but,
I would also rather buy it from Fred Martin due to the fact that just on the services that they provide for us for nothing would more than make up for $750 a month. Plus, we have all their income tax from their employees being generated there. Anything that we can do to cooperate with a business that's in the city limits, I think $750 is a minor difference in cost, and we should go with the original proposal.
I believe that's why there was some discussion in the beginning, and I think that's why we originally went with that. But like I said, if the hang-up was $1,000,
Well, again, you know, I mean, if it was $5,000 or $10,000, obviously that makes it that's a huge difference. And I'm not trying to minimize trying to save money for the city. I get that too. The only question I would have and would want to make sure, I mean, however we move this tonight, if we move the Durango on, I would just want to make sure that we can legally accept that bid if it is $1,000 more than Montrose Ford. And I don't know the answer to that, so we can get that answer.
okay.
And I did speak to Ms. Whipke this afternoon, and she has the same opinion as I do. I'm fairly certain.
Okay.
And
Keep it local.
And I had voiced the same thing he just said, that the only problem I would have, I want to make absolutely certain that we're on legal grounds to accept the bid. Now, I think we are, but, I mean, we all absolutely want to follow the law either way.
What, Mayor? What is is this something that we need that's necessary right away? Can we discuss this again at next committee of the whole or on Monday? Do you know?
Well, I think the truck's been sitting outside.
It's-
I don't
it's-
even know that he's using
Okay,
it. I think he's
okay.
using it minimally. I
Okay.
believe he's using
All right.
his
Fair enough.
instead of using what's out there, rather than tear
Okay.
it up a little bit even more or have something else go wrong with it before we get rid of it.
Do any of the other council members have an opinion on?
I feel good about the Durango too. I agree with all these guys, but this is the 2000 Jeep Cherokee we're going to be. Is this the car we're going to be using instead of the Jeep Cherokee?
Yes,
The
yes.
2007.
The one we're getting rid
Is
of?
that yeah?
Yeah.
Is that is that a trade-in too or something?
It's pretty well seen its days in shadow for 130, 140,000 miles.
I was,
A lot of mechanical problems.
yeah, I was talking to Mr. Fowler today about it. A lot of mechanical problems. He was going to see what they would give on a trade-in.
And I was going to ask you how many miles we usually put on that a year, because I noticed the last time I've gotten something in 2018, it had 109,000. We put 21,000 miles on it last year.
Yeah, but I'm trying to remember that car I think went through several different people before. It wasn't
Okay.
always zoning. I think it was.
Okay.
Ernie Reynolds used to drive it. It was his vehicle.
Okay, because
Service
in
department.
2018 it had 109, so we've used it pretty much. It's just not always sitting out there, but it sounds to me like there's a lot of mechanical issues with it.
And it was, Mr. Hess used it for a while as well.
Okay.
In that before, and then finally gave it over to Bill.
Okay. So now we're just going to use it just for zoning now?
So that's,
The new car?
Yeah.
The new one will be used just for zoning,
Okay.
correct?
You had asked for.
And excuse me, I say that, but it's going to be used for zoning.
Yeah, but
It's
Its primary function is zoning.
primary
function, and
Okay.
I'm not saying that will be the only thing, because then
Right.
if it's being used for something else, like, oh, wait a minute, that's supposed to be used for zoning, and.
I understand.
So, okay, but,
Right, primarily.
right,
Okay.
excuse me.
Sure.
Mr. Towsley, go ahead.
You had asked for opinion, and
Uh-huh.
it's just my opinion. I like the best deal in front of us, but it's not a real hang-up for me either, so
Okay.
that's my opinion.
Okay. Anything else? So having said that, then I will go ahead and move that we place ordinance 29, 2019 on the next agenda for its first reading. Do you know, we want 3 readings on this? Can we do 3 readings?
Or at least two.
Just a couple. I
Two?
think we
Okay.
did something.
So we'll just have that for a first reading
with emergency.
with emergency language.
And I will second that on, with the contingency of the law director confirming that we can accept that.
Yes. I have a motion and a second to place ordinance 29, 2019 on the next council agenda for first reading. Clerk, call the roll, please.
Mr. Kernan?
Yes.
Mr. Pelot?
Yes.
Authorization to purchase an F-150 truck in an amount not to exceed $24,412.67. What is this particular? I know this is part of our replacement plan.
This is going to, presently, Mr. Hess is driving the 250 that we purchased last
Right.
year, and so he's going to give that up because it's a heavier duty truck and drive the new 150.
Okay. And then the 250 will obviously still be used, but it'll be
That's
used
correct.
for more appropriate
Heavier
purchases,
duty jobs rather than
purposes. Yeah, okay.
traveling around.
And this is something I know we talked about this when we did the budgeting process, and this is part of our program of trying to keep up with rotating vehicles out and keeping vehicles current.
That's correct.
Okay.
There's still several old trucks that are just literally falling apart.
And that's the thing. The service department had a number of vehicles, equipment that needed replaced for a long time, and we just didn't get them replaced when we should have. Now we're trying to get that whole department up to speed to where it should be, so they can provide the service that we need to the public.
You know, and I think one of the things that we have to look at too is there's a safety factor involved in vehicles that are seen better days. So, any comments or
Well,
anything?
I was going to say on my list, I'm assuming it's the 1999s that are getting replaced. Because both of them say poor shape.
Yeah.
Unit 9 and Unit 16.
I mean, 20-year-old trucks that have been
Yeah.
used for city work have been.
We got our money's worth out of those.
Yeah. They've seen
He's
better
got
days.
he's got a thing here that says they're both rotted out. So I think they're well overdue.
Any further discussion or questions? I will move then to place ordinance number 30, 2019 on the next council agenda for its first reading with emergency language.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Clerk, call the roll, please.
Mr. Kernan?
Yes.
Mr. Pelot?
Yes.
Letter E, authorization to purchase an F-250 truck in the amount not to exceed $27,251.30. Again, this is another one of the vehicles that we're replacing on that rotational program. Any discussion regarding that, Scott?
I mean, that price, I don't know how many people have looked at truck prices, but
That's yeah.
$27,251 for a F-250 is a pretty good price.
Yeah.
Can I ask, as you've identified who and what the use is of the other two vehicles, what is this one being used for?
This will also go to the service department to be used in the service department,
In
replacing
general.
one of the older 1999s.
Okay, thank you.
What's going to happen to the older trucks?
I'm going to make an educated guess, but I would say they're probably just going to be scrapped. I'm not sure that they're safe to sell or auction.
So there's no attempt at a trade-in or anything?
I'm not 100% sure of that. I doubt seriously that Ganley will give us anything for them.
Okay.
I know that just looking at this particular pricing on this particular truck, we got a discount of $11,600. So that's quite good, I think. Any other discussion or questions? Mr. Casey?
Thank you. With the city doing a plan to redo the service vehicles, just my opinion, I think it would be feasible if we bought two F-150s instead of buying the zoning vehicle, if there's a vehicle available from the service department to give to him. If we did that, you'd save over almost $4,000 just on the purchase of that alone. And if you're looking at cost factors versus Montrose versus up here, it doesn't need a remote start. It's gonna cost us $500 to put a remote start. I don't know why he would need a remote start anyways. No, just a thought.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or?
Mr. Bremen has had all the hand-downs for a long time. He was driving one of the 1999s until it got so bad that we had to scrap that. That's when we got one of the prior 250s. And
Okay.
so we just decided it's time to upgrade and try to get him into something better.
My
Well, they've got yeah, in the 250s basically, and I haven't talked to Mr. Hess, but normally the 250s get plows put on them, and those are used to plow some of the smaller streets, side streets and that the big trucks can't get on. At least in one for around this building and that, so I don't know if that's his intent, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's what he did with the new one that he's getting.
I don't know if it's exactly what Mr. Casey was suggesting, but I think he has a point. If you could get the F-150 and replacement of that, you still have a brand new truck, but it might have a dual use because he is only using the truck for part-time. So I don't think it's a bad idea to consider.
You mean instead of one of the F-250s, get an F-150?
No, instead of the Durango.
Oh, instead of the Durango.
Right, if I understood, I think that's what he was saying, get two F-150s as opposed to the Durango. You save $4,000, and I don't know if that's where you were going, that you could have a dual use for that truck. Because the Durango would only be used in a part-time fashion anyhow. I don't think it's a bad idea to look into.
We're going to have it on for first reading, so I think we can.
We got time.
It gives us
we have
time
some
to take a look
do
at it.
that and take a look at that. So.
As far as trying to move one of the service vehicles to the zoning, again, they're 99s, poor shape. You know, it doesn't make any sense to put another employee behind the wheel of one of those vehicles. That's why we're trying to get them replaced at this point in time. But not a bad idea on getting two F-150s instead of the Durango, if we can do that.
Okay. All right. So, any other discussion regarding Ordinance 31? I'm going to go. I think we can go ahead and, in my estimation, go ahead and put this on, and we can still take a look at those other options. And if we need to, we can authorize legislation and switch some things around. So, I will move to put Ordinance number 31, 2019 on the next agenda for first reading with emergency language.
And I will second.
Any further discussion? Would the clerk call the roll?
Mr. Kernan?
Yes.
Mr. Pilat?
Yes.
And that is, I guess, the nice thing about being able to go through a couple readings so that we can take a look at those
Right.
things
That's fine.
and see what we can do. Okay, letter F, Planning Commission Resolution R1 2019. Mr. Gaynor?
Yes, this is the ordinance approving the preliminary final plat of the site plan for the Dollar General at Cleveland Maslin Road. There, if I could, Mr. Mayor, do you know if the engineers have added their items on that yet or not?
I am not sure, to be honest with you. I know
Okay.
that they were still reviewing. I don't know if that was completed or not. I wasn't
Okay,
able
well,
to
I'd like to
verify that today.
move to send this to the council next week,
Okay.
based also on final approval, if the applicant incorporates the comments of the city engineer, because there were some things missing, and that's why this is worded as a slash final. We just needed, I was at that meeting, and they discussed it quite a bit and decided that the only thing missing for final approval was some engineering items that was very minor. And I thought maybe this week they would have gotten together on that, hopefully. And if they did, then next week we could have it for our passage, hopefully.
I know that, I believe we have to have a public hearing on this, is that correct? And I'll have to check with Mr. Markey. I think that we have to have 3 full readings on it. I don't think we can suspend on this, nor do I really think that I would want to.
That's correct.
Yeah,
Okay, so
maybe then.
we have time to get that stuff taken care of since
Yeah,
it
I
has to
think
go
it'll be
through
the-
3 readings and public hearing, and this is something that we need to take that time with.
And then,
Yeah, I think that'll be on the 25th, I think will be the final
Yeah.
for the council to act on it.
Charlotte had a few questions. What exactly is the preliminary / final plat of the site plan?
I can answer that, I was there.
Okay.
The reason they did that was, as I said, they had just minor things, engineering things that had to be hashed out concerning certain things, and they wanted to pass it on to us with the stipulation that those things be taken care of. That's why I was asking the mayor if they had been taken care of, and if they were taken care of, then when we get the final ordinance on this resolution, it will incorporate those changes in the planning resolution. That their resolution will be changed to final.
Was one of the things that they had to look at was something to do with parking?
No, that's taken care of.
Okay. That's
There was some question, I believe, about the water runoff.
Oh, okay.
And it was something that just needed explained, I think, to the planning commission members. And once they would have had that, I think they were all willing to make this a final. I mean, I'm not speaking for them, but I was at the meeting, and that was the impression I got, that they, John Conklin, Mr. Conklin, suggested that it be worded as a preliminary final to make certain that those changes, or not changes, but additions were added to it. So once they're added, the planning commission, I'm certain, are good with it. And so then all we have to do is change this to final instead of preliminary final and move it forward.
And that makes sense, because as soon as you start putting that hardscape down as far as parking lots and things of that nature, then you've got runoff issues and things like that.
See, at the last planning commission meeting about what you brought up about the parking, they did approve a zoning change, or the zoning commission did a zoning change for the amount of parking spaces and a couple other things they approved. So these were really minor things. I heard them discuss them, but I don't verbatim, I don't know what they were, but they were minor engineering things. So I'm fairly certain that the engineers probably took care of them during the week this week, I hope. I mean, last week.
Do you know if anybody consulted with Barberton with regards to the sewer, that intersection can handle the additional sewage? I know at one point in time we had discussions of different projects down through there and running sewer lines up by the golf course all the way down, and there was some concern on capacity issues. I don't know. Do you remember any of that?
My guess, I mean, I remember that being discussed, but my guess would be that type of a use, I can't imagine would have that much of an impact. A restaurant might,
Yeah, we're
you know,
talking maybe one bathroom with one
but
commode. or
I
two
can't
commodes,
imagine
maybe.
it would have that much impact. But I don't know. So I mean, it's something that.
Probably a question that we should still ask, just to make sure there's no issues and not going to require some type of upgrade in the near future.
Any further discussion?
Mr. President, there was a motion on the floor. My question is this something we should or could bring forward at this time, or are we putting that off?
I think we should send it on to
We
the
can send it on.
next
I
meeting.
will second that motion then.
All right, I have a motion and a second to add this to the next council agenda for first reading. And will the public hearing be next week, or will it be the week after, the time after?
It'll be after.
Okay, all right. So for first reading, clerk call the roll.
Mr. Gaynor?
Yes.
Mr. Carratt?
Yes.
Mr. McClone?
Yes.
Any further items to come under committee of the whole?
Really just kind of a quick question maybe for Carrie. If we have the public hearing on that along with the agricultural at the same time, do we get any price breaks from the paper?
Well,
I-
unfortunately, I've already advertised for the agricultural district public hearing on March 11th.
Oh, that one's already advertised for?
Yes, and it will be in the paper Thursday.
Okay.
Today's Tuesday, right?
Yeah, we had tried to get as many of the agricultural districts applications together at one time as
Yep.
we could. We
One-
did a pretty good job.
One of the
that,
weeks
yeah.
we had 5.
Yeah,
Right.
so we did
And
save
that
some
did
money
give us
there.
a price break. But we had a straggler that came in, and we're finished now with all the ag districts. So this planning commission or Dollar General will be on its own.
Anything else?
I was just looking at the dates here. So, I mean, we could do this for March 11th, though, couldn't we? That's when the other one is scheduled.
We can, but I've already submitted the ad.
I mean,
I'll-
can we amend it,
We will-
basically?
We'll run another ad. But we can do both public hearings
Okay,
on March 11th, but we're still going to incur the cost of an additional ad.
okay.
Mr. President,
Yes, Ms. Towesley?
I just think it's important for public knowledge that it had been stated that the Barberton Police Station was going to close last Saturday, and that has not happened. Barberton Police, the jail, I'm sorry.
Jail.
not the state. I apologize, the jail. Yeah, the jail. Anyhow, they are open now, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think that's for 3 weeks, and the administration and the police chief are working on plans further from that. So just so everybody knows that it is open at this point.
Yes, thank you. We do have that, and we have contingency plans so that the city of Norton's not left without the ability to house inmates if we need to do so.
That is correct.
So, and looking further into the future also.
Yep.
All right, any other items for committee of the whole? All right, topics for next work session. Looks like we have the snow plowing services we were going to talk about, and we're also looking at possibly doing the cemetery price breakdown. I think that Mr. Fowler had started to get some of that information, or he forwarded some of that information to us.
Correct.
So we'll take a look at that. Is there any other topics for the next work session at this point? If not, if they come up, then we'll certainly add them. All right. Do I have any other business to come before council? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
All right. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We're adjourned.